What do you want from me? I'm just blood and flesh and bones. I'm not an answer.
Welcome to Mildly Entertaining at UNCW, the show where the Office of Military Affairs keeps you mildly entertained and more or less up to date on what's going on at UNCW. Your hosts are Joanna DeMott, the Military Liaison and Program Coordinator, and Melanie Nelson, the Military Student Services Specialist. Hi, Joanna. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm always great. That's the word I like to use. It really just explains how I am, and I am great. How are you, Melanie?
I'm fine. Apparently I'm eternally optimistic because I keep asking you over and over, like, how are you, in the hopes that you might have varied your language somehow and chosen a new adjective, and you're just not. You're not. You are who you are, and you are always great, and that's wonderful. It is wonderful to have a coworker who is just able to say, yeah, I'm great.
And I don't think I would use the words eternally optimistic to describe you, Melanie, but that's just, that's just the way it is.
What are you saying, Joanna? How dare you?
How dare me, exactly. I'm so excited about our guest today. We have Ryane Miller, the lead victim advocate for the Collaboration for Assault Response and Education Care we have at UNCW. How are you today, Ryane?
I am doing very well today. Thank you. I almost stole your word great, but I'm just gonna pump the brakes. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm doing well today. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to just get a chance to talk with you all and hang out a little bit.
We're excited to have you for sure. I see, our listeners can't see, but you are not in your normal working space. You are somewhere else. How has your work situation changed, and how does it differ just from early March?
Yeah, so it's been a lot. I mean, I think everyone can relate in one way or another, but I've been working from home since mid-March, so we're next week will be almost 3 months. So it has absolutely been a change. I met Joanna in a different Zoom meeting talking about different things, but, this question comes up quite often. So what are some things that have happened, and how is this different for you? So I happen to live alone. And so it's been an interesting change for me, for sure. Having to isolate and then just kind of being at home. And I've got parents that I'm very close with that are in the 65 plus age group also. So I've had to be extra careful with that. But in terms of workspace, I'm very grateful to live right by the water. So my backyard, I can see the water. So I call it my outdoor office. My outdoor office consists of myself. And so one of the most current changes in the team dynamic is we now have pelicans, seagulls, magpies, and little finches as part of the care team, right? So they're supporting me as I'm supporting others. So that's been a huge change. Lots of birds. I have lots of birds in my backyard. But no, I think on a more serious note, it's been eye-opening. So generally, in our workspace on campus, we're the resource for crisis intervention, resource connection, referrals, all that sorts of stuff for students, faculty, and staff who've been impacted by interpersonal violence. And so one of our, priorities in the office is to be available to anyone, right? So the majority of our clients are walk-ins. And so to not have that ability to be able to provide in-person accompaniment has been really difficult. It's been difficult for us to sort of, manage and do the best that we can. We are still able to serve our clients via phone, FaceTime on our, confidential crisis line and things like that. But it's just, every week we talk about in our staff meeting, just how can we continue to follow up and check in with clients that maybe we haven't heard from? How do we do our best to keep our clients safe and not reach out on platforms or in ways that maybe aren't the best for them? So sometimes the best thing to do is to sort of step back. So, on a personal note, working from home has been pretty good for me. I've been able to step back a little bit and take a bit of a breather. We usually stay really, really busy, and there's only 2 advocates for the entire campus of 20,000 students and 3,000 to 4,000 faculty and staff. So I've had a little bit of a break, but I'm trying, we're all trying to roll with it. Making friends with my new work homies. Naming all the birds. That's where I'm at after 3 months. Yeah, that's right. They've got names. I can tell when they come onto the dock. It's really funny to me.
I love it. I love that you're naming your coworkers. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Melanie has some really hard hitting questions for you coming up. So I just want you to prepare for those mentally. Are you ready for those, Melanie?
Yes. Yes. Here we go. Hard hitting journalism type questions here. First, I would like to acknowledge 2 things. Number one, I'm really happy after hearing your title and hearing you introduce the work that you do. I'm really happy that we have this beautiful brief acronym CARE to replace your full work name, because that's a lot. It's got, doesn't have the word assault in it, and like that's just rough. So I'm glad that we can use the word care to stand in for you. And of course, then you probably feel obligated to be super caring individuals all the time. It's probably like a really good reinforcing thing. So that's nice. And then, yeah, it is very interesting how we've kind of, sometimes the way we can best serve our students is by not adding to the noise and by stepping back. And so I think it's lovely that you've acknowledged that that is part of your role right now, is to, to be there when somebody needs you without aggressively pursuing them, perhaps.
Right.
Yeah, it is challenging though when that's like, we're used to the walk-ins and all these things. So solidarity right there with you. And now we're going to ask some of these really serious questions. The first one, of course, is what are you and all your new coworkers from the aviary community snacking on these days? Are you sharing snacks with them? Remember, there was this thing called the bird flu. I don't recommend that you share snacks back and forth with them, but what are you eating these days?
That is a great question. Well, I'll share an anecdotal story from this morning. So there's been a new development in the backyard business, and it is called Magpie mating season. It's a bit disruptive, super aggressive, and it basically consists of these beautiful blackbirds with really lovely, tail feathers. And if you see them in the sun, there's like glittery blue and green, and they're just lovely. Right. So when I first started working from home, I was like, oh gosh, they are just beautiful, beautiful. Love this. Well, they're also the courtyard bullies, right? So now I'm literally at the point with these magpies where I'm like, do I need to step in and start advocating for some of the birds in the courtyard versus leaving, things to nature? I don't know. I am gonna roll back around to this snacking issue. But what happened this morning was, so magpie mating season just started last week. Apparently I'm Googling it. I'm making sure that that's what's happening, because I'm seeing these beautiful blackbirds come together and they're not doing anything. They're just squawking in each other's faces at an immeasurable decibel level is what I'll say. So I'm at the point where personally, I'm a little bit annoyed. I can't work outside. I can't do my meetings outside on my back porch and enjoy the water like I usually do. And as an advocate, patience, grace, all those things, you have to have lots of those. And it's been less than a week, and my patience was through this morning. So I was like, oh, look at all these magpies. I counted about 7. I was like, oh no, there's 7. That means there's 3 pairs of 2 and then 1 alone. So you've got a floater who's trying to, find a mate. So I'm over it. I'm done. I've had 2 sips of coffee. I'm half asleep. I'm like, forget it. No one's going to see this. Did not realize I was going to bring this up in the podcast, but here we are. So I go inside. I find 2 oranges that are sort of not going to be used and on their way out, and I grab them and I walk out to the backyard, and I am literally now chucking oranges at a bush filled with magpies, trying to just, do what nature calls them to do. And I've not been appreciative. I wouldn't say that I'm super proud of it. But back to the snack issue, lots of fruit. I've been eating a lot healthier over the last 3 months, no fast food, no going anywhere. And so I've had an opportunity to cook for myself. So lots of crock pot stuff, lots of veggies, lots of fresh salads. I discovered the grocery delivery, and I was thinking to myself, why have I not been doing this? This is like a perfect way to not expend extra energy. So I I'm on the healthy track. I was off the rails there for a little while, just picking up food on the way home and being tired and super busy with work. So I know that was a super long tangent, but I hope you enjoyed the story regardless.
We're here.
I'm on a healthy track. So eating good stuff and also throwing it out in the backyard.
Throwing it at
a composting pile of sorts. I mean, maybe that's actually a humanitarian thing to do. Maybe I'll spin it that way.
Reframing is always a positive step. I like how this is just a very long way of saying, yes, I'm eating well right now, and I'm happy to hear that you are eating well. We do not judge people when they announce that they have been falling off the rails and eating lots of Hostess cupcakes and things like that. But we are here to applaud those of you who are able to, get back on the rails and do the right thing and do right by yourselves. I'm curious to know what happened to the oranges and if the magpies then went back for a snack later, because we could also reframe this as you were sharing snacks with your coworkers, however violently the sharing occurred.
Or non-violently. It was more of a toss. I wouldn't say I used the word chuck, but I'm going to retract that. It was more of just like a gentle toss, like, hey, if you wouldn't mind, just, there's lots of neighbors around. Just some of you just, disperse, and it was a gentle toss. They probably did come back for it. I would say I'm just going to go with yes on that.
Okay.
Sharing snacks, sharing is caring.
Magpie mating season. Who knew? We never know what we're going to get on the mildly entertaining. And that was very mild indeed. So thank you for sharing that. I don't think any of our 3.5 listeners represent animal rights organizations, but if they do, we've got your back. We've got your back. We were mediating coworkers here. It's fine. It's fine. We've got you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So next hard-hitting journalistic type question. What or whom do you not miss right now while teleworking? And I'm going to request that you stay away from the topic of food, because I think we've covered that one pretty well.
What or who do I not miss? I could go a lot of different ways with this.
You could, and I do advise you that there are people listening.
All three of them. So I'm going to really be careful in my words. You know what I don't miss? I don't miss the lunchtime traffic. I'll just go that route. So generally, like with work and how busy, the care office stays, and I'm sure a lot of us stay just really busy during the work day. When I was off the rails, right? So no lunch, not bringing anything, just whatever. But I do not miss the stop, start of the traffic lights. Although I feel like after 3 months, almost 3 full months of no driving at all, I'm a little bit anxious to get back on the road. So I've gone to visit my parents a couple times and that's it. And so I just like easy peasy over in the slow grandma lane, and that's where I live. That's my lane. That's where I stay. But the stop-start business, I don't know, man. I'm a little worried, but I do not miss the lunchtime traffic, and I do not miss the 5 o'clock traffic at all. It's been a lovely, lovely break from that.
I think quite a few people have experienced an increase in their mental well-being because of not having to deal with the accordion down market and down college and wherever. So yes. I'm with you on that one. What a delicate and diplomatic answer to the question. You're not complaining about the drivers, just the traffic. I like what you did there.
Just the traffic in general. Nothing about tourists, nothing about anybody else. That everyone teach their own.
There you go, to each their own. Okay. So what are your pet peeves on Zoom? Are you doing lots of Zoom meetings? Are you meeting with students and clients on Zoom? Are you participating in a lot of Zoom trainings? What are your pet peeves?
Yes. So currently, we are not actually able to see clients on Zoom. So there's a couple of different types of platforms, and we are a confidential office. So that's a quick little plug for us. We are one of the 3 locations on campus that are actually confidential. So it's us, the counseling center, and the health center. So there is a certain license that you can get for Zoom to speak with clients confidentially, and we decided to sort of hold off on that to see what was going on with the quarantine. So not to say that we won't moving back into fall, have availability to that platform. So we're not seeing clients, but I am attending a lot of meetings. You know, this is supposed to be mildly entertaining. I'm going to just throw it out there, and I promise you I'm still a nice person. A huge pet peeve of mine. Maybe just get a good friend or two of your, just like take a look at the set background that you're picking. Maybe get an opinion or two. I've seen some very interesting, very distracting, very out there. And I appreciate everyone's, you know, be creative, do what you'd like to do. But I have found myself in meetings with lots of people with backgrounds that are very interesting. And I just find myself trying to figure out and get into this person's mind and hoping they participate more with their words in the meeting to figure out, oh, they just said that. This is probably why they picked this background, versus listening to what's actually going on in the meeting. So certain backgrounds, interesting, colorful backgrounds. It's a light peeve. I wouldn't say it's a heavy peeve. It's just it's just like a thing that I've noticed. I would guess probably if you've interviewed other people, they would say, oh, people that don't know what the mute button is. I actually quite enjoy that because it's hilarious. It's like if they don't know that the mute button isn't pushed. And I mean, I used to eavesdrop, you know, as a kid. That was like a thing of mine. It was really fun. Just like being interested in people, fascinated by what they were sharing. So it's like an invitation to eavesdrop in basically an appropriate way, because we're not eavesdropping on purpose. But people, how many dogs do they have? How many children do they have? What's their child's favorite song? I love it. I think it's very entertaining. So I've kind of flipped that question over, but the backgrounds are funny. The mute button is my favorite. It's great.
So we have heard both of those before to one degree or another. And I think we've heard the Zoom background framed as like, it's just so inauthentic and it's just kind of like, it's distracting and it's annoying, and we don't really want that. I like that you have this very positive approach of, can you just check with a friend to see how you're back?
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, listen, so this is a staff meeting versus like, this is like our whole division. So how do you feel about the 15 kittens hanging from the same tree branch with laser beams coming out and their eyes are red? How does that feel to you? Does that feel good? Does that feel funny? And then maybe your friend will say, well, you know, what's your goal there? What are you going for? What's the intention? Well, the intention is to be professional. Okay, well, we're going to go back to the drawing board. I'm here. Pick another one. Let's, regroup in a couple minutes. Just my opinion.
Certainly, we're all about opinions here. We're very mildly entertaining. And it is kind of a mild pet peeve to just be sort of low-key irritated by somebody's background.
Yeah.
So Joanna helped me out this morning. We were running a green zone training. And it was the first time that I had run it on Zoom. And so I said, Joanna, I need you to come with me for moral support and also tech support, because these students call me okay boomer. Because when I teach Uni 201, the transfer student seminar, and when I'm teaching them, whenever I want to like play a YouTube video or something, I get distracted and I can't find the maximize button so that it will fill the whole screen. And the kids are all like, oh, it's over there. Okay, boomer. And I was like, fine, I'm just gonna own it. It is what it is. But then I'm also just, Zoom doesn't like me very much. We'll put it that way. So Joanna was able to help me out. And I like your suggestion to phone a friend and ask them to help you with things. We're all about that. Yeah.
Or you know what? Just go ahead with it. Just press on and do what you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, either or. I respect both. I mean, people could look at my background and be like, what? You've got a black and white painting over here, and then you've got one with lots of color over here. What's going on? Your walls are like this really drab color. Do you actually own a white couch? I mean, they could say all those things about me, and I would say yes, absolutely, to all of that. Nobody has enough time for all those stories, so I won't get into it, but I'm like, who am I to judge?
Who am I to judge?
Who am I to judge? But I'm judging them just a little bit. I'm judging at about a 2 out of a 10 versus like a 8 or 9 out of a 10.
Again, we're all about opinions here. We do quite a bit of judging, even though I'm always announcing that we're not judging. We are definitely hardcore judging all the time. That is why we have a podcast, frankly, in order to give us an outlet for all of our judging. I didn't say that out loud. So if you had to telework for the rest of your career, due to some conditions that we cannot control, if you had to telework for the rest of your career, what would be the most important things for you to keep in mind?
Wow, that's a good question. The most important things, if I had to telework, I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
If I'm teleworking for the rest of my life, does that mean like the whole world is teleworking? So for example, I work with clients. So are my clients also at home, or is it am I just like in a bubble? Is it?
So we're presenting this as though it's a zombie apocalypse where people
Okay.
are not dying from zombies. So you can still go outside, but the zombie apocalypse condition means that everyone has to telework. It doesn't really make sense.
Got it. Okay, got it. Okay, sorry, thanks. I'm a logistics / details person. So no, I think honestly, one of the things that I've really, and I've talked with a bunch of my counselor friends and social worker friends about sort of moving to the telehealth platform and or having to talk with clients on the phone versus being used to being in the same room with them, and it feels very different, even telehealth, and it's something I think that we can adjust to. But right now, the care office is only able to talk to clients via phone unless they opt for FaceTime. I think for me, one thing that I would really try to remind myself is you're losing a lot of the nonverbals, and that doesn't mean it's not okay, but since working from home, I've really had to flex and build on my active listening muscles, right? So if you're in your office with a client and a lot of what we pick up on as empaths or whatever our skills are is the nonverbal stuff, right? How do they look? Where are their eyes directed? How's their tone? A lot of things. Are they lean forward? Are they comfortable? And that's one of the most important things we use to build rapport. So I think one of the things I would remind myself is that building rapport is going to take a little bit more time. I pride myself on that, and I've worked really hard, and generally I can build rapport really quickly. And so if the rapport isn't coming in the first meeting or the second meeting, to not internalize that. And I think the other thing is remembering always that we don't know what's going on in the client's world. And of course we don't know when they come in the office either, but I think when they're in this confidential space with us in our office at the care office, we're getting different details than it is over telehealth, over the telephone, because they might not feel safe sharing certain things or who else is in the house. So I think really just reminding myself to slow down, right? So being patient, understanding that it might take another few phone conversations to build the rapport that I might be able to build in person in 60 minutes might take 3 hours, right, over the phone, or a couple hours over telehealth. So I think, and that's a general tie into to the quarantine, is just, it's given me an opportunity to slow down. And when you slow down, you really have the ability to shift your perspective, and your perspective changes a little bit. So I would say telehealth for the rest of my life, and the way that I was able to provide services would be different. And so transitioning to that, I know that's a pretty serious answer, but just reminding myself, like, I have no idea what's going on in the background with the client. And so it's really important to just listen as actively as I can, to be extremely patient, really put that, patient hat on, and just slow down.
That's a wonderful perspective on any client interaction, really. So in your work in telehealth, it's particularly important. But anytime that because I feel sometimes like I'm moving through syrup throughout the day, right? There's just something about being in this virtual environment with my Zoom issues that I had this morning on this training that I was trying to facilitate. It's like everything I click on isn't working the way it's supposed to, right? And like the screen was skewed, and I was just like, I can't fix this. I can't do this. Like, where's my co-host? And luckily Joanna was there to step in and save the day. But there are times when it's like I feel like I'm not being as productive, or I'm not providing as good of a service as I normally would. And then it's like, but if I take a look at what we're actually doing and the climate that we're doing it in, we're doing fine, right? everybody we can assume is doing their best and we're all doing fine. And applying that extra patience, I like what you say about it, whereas I normally could meet with somebody for 15 minutes and get this all straightened out and tell them their next steps. It might take several 15-minute conversations to get to the point where we trust each other enough to understand that we're working forward on this problem together. So that is actually, you know, it did get a little deep and perhaps less mild than we had hoped. But this is kind of a question that you can take in a lot of different ways, right? Like I personally, if I had to telework for the rest of my career, I would probably buy stock in Magic Spoon cereal and have lots of those boxes of cereal stationed.
Oh man, I went deep with it. I didn't even think about the light, like surfacey stuff. See, but this is what makes me a good advocate. This is what makes me a solid advocate. And social worker, like ask me any question and I'm going to take you all the way over here. Like we're about to get emotional with it.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I think Joanna has some more questions for you, and I, at this point, do not know whether they're going to turn out lighthearted or not, but we're okay with it. We're here for the ride. We're just going to go with this. And whoever's listening and has this on in the background may be more than mildly entertained today, and we're going to be okay with it.
I think, you know, and when we talk to people, depending on what they do at the university, it can be more serious, and that's okay, because what we're here today is just to get to know you a little bit better, but also to kind of clear up maybe some misconceptions about what you do, and anything, people who don't know what you do and that you're there for them. So saying that, what are some common misconceptions about what CARE does?
I think probably the biggest misconception, and it makes a lot of sense that that happens, is that we are the same as the counseling center. So the CARE office, you know, our main demographic, the demographic that we work with are, as I mentioned before, students, faculty, and staff who've been impacted by sexual assault, dating, domestic violence, stalking, or harassment. So that's our demographic. And number two, we don't provide counseling, right? So advocacy, that's another huge misconception, is like an advocate is the same person as a counselor. Now, an advocate can be a counselor, but they don't have to be a counselor, right? That can happen to be both ways, but our office does not provide counseling. So depending on what our clients need, we will either refer them on site to the counseling center, or if their trauma is a little bit more complex, we have a really great referral list and we can refer them out to clinicians in the community. So I'd say that's probably the biggest misconception. And then I think another thing is that not necessarily from our clients, but from people who want to learn more about us and what we do and the work that we do. I think one thing that I've noticed is people think that the CARE office, you know, people come in and then we get all pieces of every story, and then it's this, you know, linear path to healing, and we're doing all the same things for everybody, right? So like, here's the healing path, this is what it looks like, and we just help people, they come in, they've had this experience, and we're doing the same things over and over. Because in a lot of our presentations, we'll mention, you know, medical advocacy, we can go to court with you, we do protective orders, we do criminal court, we do academic, Title IX. There's really not a whole lot that we can't do. But I think, you know, one thing that I've noticed about my clients, or maybe like an RA who brings in a student, or, you know, and then they end up being clients themselves, is like, oh, you know, I really thought that what you did was just, you know, provide support and then maybe shuffle us over to the counseling center or do whatever. I don't think people understand the amount of things that we can actually provide as an office, which is pre-quarantine is accompaniment anywhere. And we are in the middle of figuring out how to do that through Zoom on those platforms for students who, for example, need to go forward with a Title IX hearing, or need some other advocacy around some of these really serious issues. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I heard that piece. You know, we received like a tiny little bit in our new employee orientation, and then you're off on your own. So it's been wonderful to hear about those misconceptions and about a little bit more about exactly what you do. Is there anything coming up that you'd like to promote today?
Oh, wow. Well, I think, so June is Pride Month. So we are certainly in the works of, you know, trying to figure out what we want to do for our social media campaign. So that's a big thing. And then also, I won't go into this too much, but we are figuring out, so we have a group of peer students that work for us and also volunteers. So our peer coordinators, we've got 8 paid positions in our office for that. And so usually they're in the office about 8 to 10 hours a week. And this past year we had 8 of them. That's kind of a standard. And then I think this past academic year we had like 15 or 16 student volunteers. So they are our core for helping us keep a pulse on what's going on campus. What issues are important to the students, how are people handling things, and how are the students impacted by certain decisions that are made. So I will say right now we are doing our best to reach out to different resource offices that have been impacted by a lot of the violence that's going on in the country. And so we really are focusing on that and reminding people that we are a sense of support for that, right? We're stalking and harassment. We get reports of anything related to things of that nature. So trying to get the word out and reminding students and faculty and staff that we are here as a resource to support them. And we're all sort of figuring this out. But that's our sort of main priority point right now. But in June, we will have a social media campaign around Pride Month as well.
I love all the work that you're doing, and I especially enjoyed learning more about how what you do is advocacy and not counseling, but all the resources that are available. And what we always tell our students and anybody who comes to us is that if you don't know if that's the right place, just go there. They'll make sure that you get to the right place.
Yes, thank you for saying that. And we say that all the time. It's like, listen, so part of being an advocate, there's 2, I describe it as 2 main veins. I'm about to nerd out. We're about to get in this geek phase really quick. But being an advocate has kind of 2 veins, right? So the emotional support piece is that number 1 piece. So it doesn't matter if a student comes in and we hear whatever it is they feel comfortable sharing. We do not ask investigative questions. It's whatever they feel like they want to tell us, right? And from there we go through their options. But that number 1 always is that emotional support piece. And I think that's what can be confused with counseling. So we're not, applying a counseling modality. We're not going to do CBT. We're not doing motivational interviewing, any of that stuff. But it's just being there and being present with that person and listening with them, feeling with them, and just being there and working really hard to build that trusting relationship. So that emotional support piece is number 1. But the other vein is all of the resources. So that is basically an advocate's job, is to listen really closely to what it is. The words, right? Words are really important and they hold a lot of value in our office, the words that people use to describe things. So we have education and training and those kinds of things. And based on what it is that they're sharing with us and telling us that, their lived experiences, our mind is buzzing. So we have this sort of mental checklist, like, would this apply? Would this apply? Would this apply? Would this apply? So when they're done sharing on their timeline, at a time that's, a time frame that's best for them, we go through those options very thoroughly. So that connection to resources, both on and off campus, we've worked really hard to develop, and I mean like really great professional relationships with our local rape crisis center, our local domestic violence agency, sheriff's office, WPD, all of those people that are really important. We're involved in those interdisciplinary committees within the county. So I can go on forever, but that emotional support piece, whether the client decides to, or student, faculty, staff decides to do one of the things, none of the things, all of the things, they're going to be infused with that emotional support. And as advocates versus counselors, we're allowed to follow up. So we do a lot of following up, and especially in a time like this, we've been doing a ton of follow-ups with current, past clients, just checking in with everybody. So there are so many things that an advocate can do. It's our job to be knowledgeable on what resources are available, and also during quarantine, the nuances and how certain services are available in this way, that's different. I mean, we're on the up and up. We work really hard to make sure that we're providing accurate information as well to the clients and that emotional support. So
that
soapboxy, sorry.
We're so, It's such a wonderful service that you offer, and I'm so happy that it's available on the campus. And I just want to thank you so much for getting on that soapbox, for talking about chucking oranges, for everything. We really, I really enjoyed this today for sure.
Thank you so much. No, I appreciate the invite. You know, it's what I'll end with this. I'm very wordy, but what I appreciated so much about Joanna and this sort of last meeting that we both kind of signed up for, you know, to have this discussion was she was really funny and really, so I get an email from Joanna. I'm like, oh my God, she's reaching out to me. Oh my God, she's inviting me on a podcast. This is crazy. Like, what's going on? But no, oftentimes the issues that we work with, people, you know, it's hard to talk about. It's heavy, it's hard, it's difficult, but now more than ever, it's really important. So I really do appreciate the invite to come and talk about the services that we provide and to, you know, hopefully provide some mildly entertaining moments in that as well. But no, thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been an episode of Mildly Entertaining, and we will see you on the internet.
Thank you for listening to Mildly Entertaining. Our intro music comes from the band Blue Turnip and their song, What Do You Want From Me? You can find their EP Songs from the Root Cellar on Bandcamp, iTunes, Amazon, and Spotify. For more information, you can go to blueturnipmusic.com.